What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Just want to say thank you to all of the students from By the Hood University, to anybody who supports anything that we got going on, and a special shout out to all the youth from our By the Hood ownership camp, which recently ended. It was crazy, phenomenal, successful camp, and we will continue to do that work. Shout out to all the people that have given us the opportunity to come speak and, pour into the youth around the city because we back out in the streets doing that work as long as we're able to be out in the streets doing that work. But I'm joined by my partner in crime, Core. Core, what's up, bro?
Yo, what's going on? How's everybody doing? Every day above ground is a good day. Never going to complain about living.
That's right, man. Listen, and as you know, our show is designed to highlight brothers and sisters who are doing positive work, building businesses, pouring into our community. And this brother we got on here, first and foremost, I want to send a shout out to our brother, Coach Carter, because he said something, and I agree with him. This might be the first brother I ever talked to from Arkansas, right? But he's down there doing amazing work, building tremendous businesses. And another thing I like about this brother is he's teaching along the way. So he's bringing people with him, which is very important. But we're joined by Henry Washington. What's up, good brother?
Hey, what's good? What's good? Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate this. I'm a fan of y'all. I love what you do. So, man, I'm pumped.
Oh, man, appreciate you for saying that, man. Listen, this is about you. We want to highlight you. We're going to talk about some of the work that you currently got going on in the real estate game because you're putting in phenomenal work in real estate, but also coaching. But let's talk about your background. So, where are you originally from? Born and raised?
I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California, man. So I grew up out there. My father was a teacher, a high school art teacher. My mother was the director of the waste management department out there in Kern County, where I'm from. So both college educated parents, and they did well for themselves. So I grew up middle class. I would say that my entrepreneurial spirit came from my father. My parents always taught or instilled in us the value of education. And so it was always like, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to school. So like I knew I was going to go to college, and that's what they wanted me to do. But my father also always had a hustle. Like he owned a barbecue restaurant for 10 years when I was growing up. He owned an arcade. He owned vending machines. Like he always had a little extra something. From his perspective, he was doing it just to help make the ends meet. It was never like trying to build this empire. And so like we never talked about entrepreneurship. Like my dad never talked to me about owning my own business and being my own boss. He always talked to me about going to school, but still watching him do it and be successful with it, like it plants a seed. And so as I got older and as I got to a point where I was thinking about starting my own business via real estate, like I never thought I couldn't do it. Like I didn't know you couldn't do it. I saw my pops have businesses. So I was like, I'll just do that. Right. I never had that fear that a lot of people have because of that background.
Oh, that's dope. So he, was always talk to you about college, right? So did you end up going to college?
Yeah, man, I did. I went to Hampton University. I got my degree in computer information systems.
Oh, HBCU. Nice.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, man. My pops and my mom, that's where they met. And so I was legacy. So I went there and computer information systems degree. I knew I wanted to do something that A, I enjoyed, and B, was going to actually make me some money when I graduated. And so got my degree. I went to work in the corporate world right away. I worked for the government for a while, and then I went and I worked for Walmart for about 11 years doing software development and technology. That's how I got to Arkansas. As I came here to work for Walmart because that's where they're headquartered out here. And
so you worked in the corporate setting for Walmart in IT, you said, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
How was that working at Walmart corporate?
It was good, man. It was a lot. I had a bunch of cool opportunities, man. They flew me to Brazil. I did some work out there for a little bit. Walmart is involved in so much more than people think they are. And so like the exposure to like a huge corporation and like kind of how they operate and do business was super helpful and enlightening. Matter of fact, the department I spent most of my time in my career in was Walmart's real estate department. And so like getting to see like corporate commercial real estate from the inside out was pretty cool. So, I learned a ton, man. I learned a ton.
That's a couple interesting things for that, right? For one, Walmart has a real estate department, right? So when we think of Walmart, we all think of one thing. But
right.
You said Walmart's involved in a lot of things.
Man.
But also, and I was going to ask you, you kind of answered it a little bit, but how did working for an organization like that help you now as you try to build your business and scale your business? How did it help you?
A few things, right? And so I spent a lot of my time in data analytics. And if there's one thing about real estate as an investor, or just investments in general, it's about the research and the numbers, right? And understanding that it's not a personal decision, it's about the numbers. And so being able to see how Walmart evaluates deals and properties, like I was inside of deal committee meetings where they were looking at the numbers of different deals and demographics of areas and trying to understand why they should or shouldn't open a store. Like that's what people do in real estate, right? You look at the demographics of an area, you look at the job growth, you look at what stores and things are there to determine if that's a place you should buy. Like all that information has been helpful for me, both like evaluating where I want to invest and evaluating the numbers, like what I'm going to buy it for and what I'm going to try to disposition or dispose of the property for.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. You just dropped the bar there. You said it's not a personal decision. It's about the numbers. Yeah,
that's it.
That's a bar. That's it right there, right, Corey?
Yeah.
That's it. All right, so now in your journey, right, so you're working at Walmart corporate, you're getting a lot of great opportunities. How do you then make that transition? Because a lot of people with that opportunity, you're getting flown to different countries and you're seeing a huge business. They wouldn't even want to make the transition. They would feel comfortable and just try to make their money right there.
Yeah, man, it wasn't comfortable. Yeah, it wasn't comfortable, man. They put the golden handcuffs on you, right? And so they pay you a good salary. They give you a good bonus. They teach you all kinds of cool stuff. For me, what led to the decision, I had a few eye-opening moments, I would say, along my journey. Some in the corporate world, some in my home life, right? One of the eye-opening moments in the corporate world was it's a large company, right? And so they're always looking to trim the fat, whether that be through the stores or whether that be through the employees at the home office, right? And so every year or two, there was always whispers of like somebody's getting laid off or some department's getting restructured or some department's getting eliminated, right? And so like, you hear the whispers all the time. And so one day I came to work and there was just an email that went out that said, everybody on this email report to this conference room at this time, right? And usually that's either you're staying or you're going, right? And so like the whole dang department had got one of these emails. And so we go to this meeting room and it's in this big conference room. And then we're just standing in this hallway waiting to go into the room. There was another group of people who had the meeting before us. They were already in the room. And so we're in this hallway and I'm literally sitting here like, that guy's standing in here like cattle about to tell us if we get to keep it or not, if we get to make money or not. I don't know if the people in that room are getting told they got to leave or they got to stay. And I just remember like my entire financial future is dependent upon what these people are about to tell me. And they got me standing in this hallway like cattle. I was like, I got to do something. Never again do I want to feel like somebody else is in charge of whether my family gets to eat or not. So that was like eye-opening moment, number one. Number two was after I got married, my wife and I went to buy a house together, and the loan officer was basically saying, "Hey, we're happy to loan on this house for your wife, but you can't be on the loan. You got terrible credit. The interest you would have to pay is going to price y'all out of the deal." They were like, "Y'all can buy the house, but we got to take you off." And right, like as a man, as a provider, like not even like being able to be a part of the very first property we buy as a family, like that was a blow. Like those two things helped me realize that like I need to make a change both in like how I think about money and I need to make a change in how I acquire money so that I can take care of myself and family better. Because right now it wasn't up to me, and I just didn't like that feeling.
Well, yeah, so it sounds like the lack of control. The lack of control, made you want to make that change. That's interesting. That's
absolutely
crazy testimonial. That's an amazing story. Like I can imagine like the feeling of being in that hallway and just not knowing. And in the way you put it too, you said not just keep your job, like how I'm gonna feed my family. Like
right.
That's crazy, man. Interesting, man. So what was the first step though? What was the first step to that you took to kind of like, make the change?
Yeah, man. So kind of what led to it was the final straw was my wife and I, we were having conversations about what our future looks like. We're living in this house now at this point that I couldn't be on the mortgage. And now we're in the bed in the middle of the night having conversations about what our future looks like. How many kids we're going to have? What's our dream home going to look like? school districts, right? All the things that you talk about when you have a new relationship. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, dream home. Like I couldn't even help us get in this one. I don't get a dream home. Like, and the pressure I felt from that, like, because that was like I knew at that point, like, I can't afford to give her any of the life that she wants. What have I done? My whole single, when I was single, I was working for Walmart too, and I made good money. Like, my salary was straight. Like, I'm not trying to say I didn't have a good job. I wasn't financially smart, and so, like, every dollar I made, I spent, and all that's well and good when you're on your own. But when you get married, it's not just you no more. And, like, I was just feeling the pressure of, like, now somebody else has to live with the consequences of my actions before we got married. Like, that's not fair. So I had a panic attack after that conversation at 3 a.m. Like, no joke, panic attack. And I just jumped out of bed, or I sat up in bed, and I was like, I got to figure something out. So I just started Googling, like, what are some good side hustles? How do I make extra money? And I started seeing articles about passive income. And I was like, dope, what's passive income? How do I get passive income? And I started seeing articles about real estate. And that's when, like, I was like, oh, snap, real estate's super cool. And then I saw this TED Talk, and it was this kid, he was 20-something years old. The TED Talk was called How to Design Your Dream Life Through Passive Income. And I was like, word, that's what I'm looking for, right? And so I watched the video, and it's this kid, 20-something doors, he's financially free. And the whole talk was just him saying, like, look, there's multiple paths to financial freedom. I used real estate. I've got 20-some odd doors, and now I get to choose how I want to spend my time. And I was like, that doesn't seem like that much. Like, that was my first exposure to, like, a normal person owning real estate. Up until then, I just thought rich people own real estate. Like, and I was like, just regular people do this? I was like, oh, word, I'm going to figure this out. I'm about to be a real estate investor. Like, that's how my mind worked. And like I said, my father laid that foundation by having all these businesses. So when it was time for me to make a decision that I was going to do something, like, my brain didn't go, well, let me see if I can. No, my brain was like, word, I'm going to do that. And that was it. And I decided in that moment.
There's so many lessons in your story, right? Just the lesson of, I was making good money, but I didn't understand finances, right? There's probably a lot of people out there who are listening or watching this who are the same way, right? Because just because you make a good income doesn't mean anything if you don't know what you're doing. It's not about how much money you make; it's about how much you keep, as we say every show. But I mean, your testimony, you have a testimonial about that, right? Your story is powerful. And then you literally just went to Google and it changed your life. Like, you found videos that you want to
Googled his way out of obscurity. He literally Googled himself out of obscurity.
You Googled your way into wealth, bro. That's amazing. All right, so now you want to get into real estate. What was your first thing? Was it education, or did you just jump like head first and try to make a deal?
So in that moment, I didn't realize the power of what I did, right? So in that moment, I decided I was going to be a successful real estate investor, right? I didn't say, I'm going to try to be a real estate investor. I didn't say, I'm going to go see how it goes. I decided at 3 a.m. I was like, word, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be good at that, right? And at that moment, I didn't realize how powerful that was. But, like, when you make a decision, right, it changes your mindset. Like, you start to, when crap gets hard now, I already told myself I'm going to be good at this. So my brain starts figuring out ways to navigate obstacles. Right. And I think too many people say, oh, I'm going to give that a shot, or I'm going to try it. Right. And when you do that, you're not telling your brain you're going to figure it out. You're telling your brain you're going to stop as soon as it gets hard. Right. And so step one was I made that decision. Step two was I started immersing myself in real estate information and culture. Right. Like books, podcasts. Like, if I had a spare moment, it was real estate content in my head. No matter how I could get it, I was getting it in my head. And then I surrounded myself with other investors in my local market. Because if you're going to do something, you got to be around the people that are doing it. Yeah. Right? Like, you just got to immerse yourself in everything that is that thing. Right? Who do pro ball players hang out with? They hang out with pro ball players. Right? Because that's where opportunities come from. They learn more about how to train and take care of their bodies. They learn all the tips and tricks of the trade by hanging out with like-minded individuals. And so I just immediately was like, I got to get around other investors. And so any real estate investment meetup group, it didn't matter. I was there. I was in the room, both to learn, and I wanted people to see me as an investor. And the next thing I did was I just started telling people I was an investor. I didn't know how I was going to be an investor. I only had $1,000 in my savings account. I still had bad credit, but I told people I'm a real estate investor. If somebody asked me what I did, I introduced myself. I'm Henry. I invest in real estate, and I work for Walmart in the real estate department. Right? Those are the things I would say to people, because if I didn't believe I was going to be successful, who the heck else was supposed to believe me? And so that helped me get my first deal, because one of my buddies heard I was buying property, and he had to sell a house super quick, and he knew he had to sell it under market value. So he was like, "Oh, Henry's buying houses. Let me call him real quick," and I ended up buying that. That was my first deal.
Yeah, man. You know, you drop so many gems, bro. But one thing I want to say about like real estate investing, that's kind of like how I even get deals to this day, is just from like word of mouth. Yeah, and I tell most new investors the same thing. You got to start introducing yourself as a real estate investor, right? You know, back in the day when we used to do business cards, no one does business cards no more. But I used to tell people to get a business card that says real estate investor. They said, "Well, I don't own any houses." It doesn't matter. You have to carry yourself like a real estate, because what will happen is deals will come to you, right? And you walk that. So that's amazing, man. So you scaled your business up. Like right now, how many doors do you currently have?
65 plus.
Okay, so over 65. Okay, yeah. So you scaled it up. And along that journey, right, of starting to where you were, you having that conversation and saying, "I want to be a real estate investor." So now you're successful. You've created a whole new life for yourself. What was the biggest hurdle or something that you had to overcome going through that journey?
Man, the biggest hurdle. Yeah, man. So I think there's both. So there's a couple different kinds of hurdles, right? So there's the hurdle of like, what are some actual tangible hurdles within the industry? And then there's like mental hurdles, right? So I'll talk about one of each, right? And so the tangible hurdle came kind of after I got in the game, right? And so I think a lot of new people that want to get into investing, right, they think, you know, they understand the concepts, right? You got to buy something under market value. You got to add value to it by fixing it up, right? And then you either rent it or you sell it or you wholesale it, whatever your disposition strategy is, right? But nobody thinks like the details of that, right? And so I knew, I was like, all I was focused on when I got started was how to find a good deal, where am I going to find a good deal, how am I buy it, how am I get under contract, right? And so once I did all that and I finally had the deal, then I was like, well, somebody got to work on this property, right? And like finding contractors and managing contractors is by far the hardest part of this business.
Man, hey Corey, what do you think? Corey, right?
You just sang the song that Jimmy sings every day.
Man, listen, till this day, absolutely.
Yes, facts, man. And like you just don't know that going in, right? Like on the front side, once you figure out how to get good at finding deals and you figure out your strategy for purchasing your deals, like that just goes on rinse and repeat. Like that is not hard once you get going. But the contractor part, that part stays hard, right? And
for me, just to give you a little perspective, for me, most of the people that told me, they would always complain about tenants. Oh, I got this tenant that does this.
Yeah.
Tenants haven't been the hard part for me. It's the contractors.
Yes, that is 100% true. And so like, I got all the same horror stories everybody else does. I lost a lot of money here and there. People started a job, walked off with my money. People didn't do what they're supposed to. Like I've got all the horror stories. And so like learning how to have a process for both, like how to find contractors, and then learning how to have a process for like how to maintain a good contractor once you find one, like that was the biggest challenge for sure.
Got you. Oh man. So listen, so now, you know, you currently have, you know, the 65 plus doors. You're building your business in real estate. What made you want to get into the idea of teaching others to do the same?
Man, I stumbled into that too. So once I got on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and then I got on TV, and I started doing these TikTok and Reel videos, like my social media took off. And like, I just always like helping people. So most people I was asking for help, I was trying to, you know, talk to them. And when you only got a few thousand followers, that's not that many people that's actually reaching out for help. And so I was helping everybody that was reaching out. And then as my following started to grow, like I couldn't spend all my time doing that. So I had to get strategic about who I chose to help, because now I need to pay attention and try to only help people who are going to value my time and who are going to take the information I give them and put it to use, or else I just wasted 30, 45 minutes on a phone call with somebody who's not going to do anything with the information. And so kind of the way I would weed out people is I just created like the questions I would get in consultations or in DMs were like, hey, how are you finding all your deals? How are you funding? Like, how are you buying all these deals? So I created just 2 courses and made them very, very low ticket so that if people had questions about that, I would just say, hey, go check out this course. It's super cheap. It's super cheap. Just go through the information. If you have questions, then come back to me. I'll talk to you. And so, like, I didn't create the courses to make a bunch of money. I created them to help save me time and help give people more value. Because you can go listen to this course for 3 hours in detail, or you can listen to me give you an overview of it for 30 minutes, right? Like, the course is better. So I point them to the course. And then, like, the volume of sales that I was doing, I was like, wait a minute, like, this, like, that's a lot of money. Like, I wasn't planning on that.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's when I had to realize, like, oh, this is a business too, and I need to treat it as such. And so now I've been like building out different courses and different products because you quickly learn that like people aren't spending money on the information; they're spending money on you because they believe in you and they trust you. And if you don't have products for them to buy at different price points, then they're just going to go somewhere else to get that information. And so you're doing yourself a disservice by not having products for your people who want to pay for them at different levels. And you're doing the audience a disservice because if they want to buy from you and you don't have it, then they got to go to the next person.
Man, all great points. Now, I did see that clip where you were, you were called into the news, like you were on TV. Like, how'd that come about? That was Fox, right?
Yeah, it was Fox. So I thought it all came about kind of crazy. So somebody saw my Bigger Pockets interview from Business Insider.
Okay.
And they wrote an article on me based off that interview. So they never interviewed me. They didn't ask me. Nobody told me. Business Insider just did a whole article on me. I had no clue. Somebody that I worked with was like, sent me an email and they was like, yo, congratulations on your Business Insider article. And I was like,
so
what article?
So you were still working at Walmart at the time?
Yeah. I was like, what article? They said on Business Insider, they did a whole article on you. That was dope. And I was like, nobody wrote an article about me. So then they sent me the link. So they sent me a link, and you can see in the link it's talking about me.
Hold on, let's back up real quick. What is it like seeing an article of you on Business Insider that you have no knowledge of? Like, what is that moment when you're like, hold up?
Yo, it's like, at first it's like, what the crap do? Like, I was like upset, right? And then they sent me the link, and obviously it's a good article. So I'm like, all right, well, if they're saying congratulations, it must not be bad. Right. So then I start to calm down a little bit and I'm like, well, maybe the exposure is dope. Like, and so I go click on the link to look at the article. You got to have a subscription to Business Insider to view the article. So I had to pay to join Business Insider to read the article they wrote about me. So I joined it. I read the article. The article's nice. It's all cool. So I scroll down to find the editor. And I sent the guy who wrote it. And I was like, hey, I sent him an email on LinkedIn, I think, or a message on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, I saw you wrote this article about me on Business Insider. You know, what's going on with that? And he was like, oh, man, I loved your interview on Bigger Pockets. It was dope. I just had to write something about you. And I was like, that's cool. Just can you give me a heads up next time? Like, and he was like, yeah, man. He was like, yeah, man, absolutely. And so, like, I was like mad and happy at the same time. It was a good article. Like, I didn't just want to be like, cool, thanks for like using all my information and not telling me, but like it was cool, right?
Yeah.
And then, but because he wrote that article, somebody from Fox Business Morning Show, one of their producers, saw it, read it, and he sent me an email on LinkedIn. He was like, hey, I'm a producer for Fox Business. I just read your article in Business Insider. We'd love to have you on the show. And I was like, well, I guess I ain't mad at them people for writing me for right now. So that's how they found me, and then they asked me to come on their morning show, and I was like, man, sure. So I went and did a television interview.
Yeah, that's dope. That shows you we definitely in the information age. How that whole thing played out. You didn't even talk to nobody. That's crazy.
Nothing.
Yeah, because I've seen them online. But when you see it, you don't know all that. I just assumed that you had talked to him for the interview. Like you don't know, ran and made it. That's crazy.
They did the whole thing. I had no clue.
That's crazy.
I had to pay for my own article. I had to pay to read my own article.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's crazy. Of course, I know you had some questions for the good brother, man.
Yo, man, because this whole thing has been interesting. Like, you're like the Dos Equis, man. Like, you're the interesting dude in the world, right? Right. So, I need to know. Right. So you said you're married, right? So how did your wife feel about that whole situation? Like, how did she feel about how that went down?
The article or about investing in general?
Both. Well, I was talking about the article, but since you brought that piece in, let's do both.
She, wives get territorial, defensive, right, about you. So she was like, "Nah, you need to find out who wrote that. Why didn't they tell you?" Right. So
yeah,
I was like, well, let's make sure, like, if it's cool, it could be helpful, right? And so I was just more concerned with, like, let me read the article before I go blow up on somebody. And she was super protective, always protective of me. But it worked out well, so she was good with it. But like my marriage in general, from an investment perspective, marriage has been a cheat code, man. Like, the whole reason I was able to buy that first property, like, I only had $1,000 in my savings account, and I needed $20,000 to buy the property, and so we leveraged my wife's 401k. I didn't have one. I told you I wasn't smart with my money. I wasn't even putting money in a 401k. So I had to go to my wife and say, "Hey, can we borrow money out of our 401k to buy this property?" And she didn't even hesitate. She was like, "Let's do it."
Wow.
So we wouldn't be where we were. We wouldn't be where we are now if she didn't just believe and trust me, even when she didn't have a reason to, because I wasn't financially responsible, and she still had my back.
Wow.
Oh, that's gangster.
Yo, that's crazy. You know what's crazy about that? Anyone that we've had in our podcast, this is like episode 118 or whatever, that has been something that's everybody who's married has said. Marriage is the cheat code. I believe it too. It's funny. I said it when I was on Hatch's podcast.
Yeah.
You're so true, but your story, like, you can pinpoint. She literally gave you the money out of her 401k.
Actual literal cheat code.
Yeah, it said go to work. Like, that's a phenomenal story. Another thing I was thinking about, you just said that though. So you were working at Walmart, which is known for like stock options and giving employees great 401ks, and you weren't even contributing?
I was so dumb.
Wow. I'm gonna tell you a story about that. One of my best friends, who's a millionaire right now, he made his first million working as a manager for Walmart and off of stock options.
Yeah.
Have you ever sat back and thought about like what you missed out on with options at Walmart?
That's what I was about to tell you, man. Like, I try not to think about it too much, but since y'all gonna make me cry on this show, I'm gonna tell y'all about it, right? And so I tell everybody everything. Like, I'm not trying to hide nothing, right? So like when I got hired, they paid me. It was like $63,422. Like I remember the numbers, and it also came with, they were going to buy, I think at the time it was every year they would purchase $4,000 worth of Walmart stock in my name, and so at the time when I got hired, Walmart stock was at like $38 to $40 a share.
Jesus.
And so like every year they would just automatically buy it for you, and then you couldn't touch it for 3 years, right? And so it just would grow because you weren't allowed to touch the stocks that they buy for 3 years. And so like they would buy them every year, but you couldn't touch that first set of stocks until they were 3 years old. And so then every year, once you hit your 3-year period with those stocks, you're allowed to sell them and cash out, or let them stay and grow. And, I sold them every year. When I had extra stocks, I didn't know anything about the stock market. I didn't understand the value of what I had. I had no clue. I sold every stock Walmart bought for me, I sold.
Wow. And you know the crazy
if I still had that right now.
That's a lesson. I mean, it's a lesson in that because one of the only jobs I've had as an adult, I used to work for J&J, and it was kind of the same thing. And I knew people that like worked in middle management who were millionaires for doing the same thing, just for doing their job, and they would get the stock. But now doing this work, I talk to a lot of people who work at big corporations and have opportunities and just don't contribute because they don't know any better. It's not your fault. You didn't know. But I mean, it's a lesson in that because now if someone coming after you, you could tell them like, yo, while you're there, because there's a couple things in your story. You talked about like not just the money part, right? But what you learned from being within that business. So for anyone out there looking to build a business and you're working in a bigger business, I mean, look at their infrastructure. Look at how they do things. You can learn. You can learn while you work. You know what I'm saying? As you build your own thing. Man, that story's crazy though.
Yeah, man. Like I said, he Dos Equis, man. Like he got all of he got all of the like ins and outs, the dope stories. Like, but you know that. But the thing about his story is that it's so genuine and it's so real. Like you can't like you can't make this stuff up. Yeah, like man. if you making this stuff up, you first of all, if you do make it up, you absolutely nuts. You shouldn't be making it like because like you all the opportunities that the opportunity cost that like your story is a story about opportunity cost, right? And so opportunities that you missed and opportunities that you got by doing certain things, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the lessons in opportunity cost that your story has is amazing.
I appreciate it, man. I've learned a lot. Some the hard way, some the good way, man.
But you know, you're going to help a lot of people because what I understand just by hearing your story, there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Like a lot of people can relate to that. Like working at a corporation, not taking advantage, then learning, and taking advantage of opportunity. You talk about how your wife played a part. You have an amazing story, so you got to consistently share it. Let me ask you this question though. A couple questions. Along this journey, what is your favorite book or a book that's inspired you?
So I'll give you. So I'm more of a.
If you have a couple, that's fine too.
Yeah. I'm a spiritual guy, right? And like I'm a feelings guy, right? Gotcha. So like the how-to books are cool, but they're not my favorites. Like I love the books that are like spiritual or talk about like your purpose. And so I loved The Alchemist. The Alchemist was by far one of my favorites because it's about like living in your purpose and following your purpose. And if you're moving in the purpose and in the vision that God gave you, like the universe will get out of your way. You don't have to worry so much about the how. You just have to worry about doing what you're called to do, and the how reveals itself. And I just love that message, man. I think a lot of people can use that encouragement. There's so many times, especially people like us, like we think everything's a scam, right? We don't want to do nothing until somebody tells us exactly how it's supposed to be done. But the how isn't up to us. If God gives you a vision, it's your responsibility to take action on that vision. He'll work out the how, right? We got to stop trying to figure everything out before we get started, because then we'll never get started. And probably the best how-to book from a real estate investment perspective, or the one that I enjoyed the most when I first got started, was The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. I think it was just a good high-level overview of real estate investment as a whole and how you could get started, and like who are the people or the players or the team members you're going to meet along the way to help you be successful. So I enjoyed that one as well.
All right, got you. Two classics right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. What's the future for your business? What are you looking to do in the future? You've already, you have an amazing story. You're successful right now. What is the future?
Yeah. So I'm going to continue to grow my coaching and teaching platform. Once I got started in real estate investment, like I quickly realized exactly what you mentioned. Like I quickly realized how powerful real estate was. And I felt this like overwhelming obligation to share it with as many people as possible. That's why I started my Instagram. It was just to give information away because I felt like people need to know that this is possible. Like when I started my Instagram, I didn't even know that people used Instagram to like make money like that. I was just like, I didn't even know like there was a formula. You give the game away for free to help build your page. Like I didn't do it for any of that. I did it because I was like, yo, people need to know about this. And so I'm just going to start talking about it and giving it away. And so like growing my platform for teaching and coaching so that I can touch more and more people and help more and more people along the way is something that I'm working on. And then like from my real estate investment business side, like I know I'm supposed to have some like sexy answer about like growth where I see myself in 5 years. But the honest answer is I don't have that. Like I love this so much. I love buying property. I'm closing on when we get off this call, I got to go close on a duplex.
Nice.
I just love it, man. And so I'm going to keep growing at whatever pace I feel like is comfortable. And at some point, God will tell me to stop, I'll stop. But until then, I'm just going to keep buying property. Now I'm going to I'm going to look to get to be less leveraged at some point. And so at some point, I'll look at how many properties do I need to sell or dispose of to pay off the majority of the ones that I have. Let's say I got 100 doors. If I can sell 30 to 50 of them and pay off the rest, 50 free and clear will pay me better than 100 leveraged. And then I'm recession proof. So I'll look at that at some point. But until then, I'm just going to keep going, man.
Man, that's amazing, man. Corey, you got any more questions for the good brother, man?
My man he just said it. Like, look, I'm trying to be free and clear. I'm trying to be recession proof. I'm trying to be the things that, that make good investors, right? Because like you just said, the ROI on that. The ROI is better with 50 doors free and clear than it is with 100 leverage. So you already know the number.
You got half the work now because you cut your portfolio now. So.
Yep, that's right. And you started off by telling us it's about the number. It's not personal. It's about the numbers. And I think that's that might be a title, man. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, a lot of us, when it comes to any sort of investing, we get emotionally involved in it, and a lot of people don't know their numbers. So, including me, I've been there. I've told my story several times where I didn't know my numbers. Had a bunch of doors, but I didn't know my numbers. Yeah. So anyway, man, listen, this has been powerful, man. Your story and your testimonials are amazing, man. And listen, even the mistakes are amazing, like, because you learn from them, right?
Facts. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I tell people all the time, like, I teach and I coach, right? And it costs money, right? Mostly you're paying for my time, right? But you're also paying for my lessons. And when you understand, once you realize that, like, your education is going to cost you money no matter what route you take, then it makes it easier for you to invest in education that you feel is good education or from people that you trust, because you could go about this on your own. And I did, right? I absolutely did, right? Courses weren't as big of a thing when I got started as they are now, right? And so the access to them was more limited, right? But if you look at it from the perspective of, if you don't buy a course, or if you don't learn from somebody else's mistakes, you're going to go out there and make your own. And those mistakes are probably going to cost you some money, right? And if you're smart, you won't make the same mistake again. And so you paid for your education, right? Or you can pay on the front side and learn from somebody else and avoid those mistakes. Either way, you're going to pay money.
There you go.
So you can either control how much money you pay on the front side, or it can get out of control on the back end.
What's the saying? It's a saying that says a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
Facts, 100%.
Yeah, man. Oh, listen. So, Henry, just want to say first and foremost, man, thank you, man. We appreciate you sharing your story and your time with our audience.
Thank you, man.
And continue to do the work you do, man. You're very inspiring. And for those that don't follow him already, make sure you follow his IG page. Like you said, he's always giving the game away for free. A lot of amazing content. Just follow what he's got going on. And if you see any articles someone wrote about him, send them to him, because he might not know. He might not know.
Hey, nobody talked to him. Nobody ever talked to
him. But listen, man, we anything you need from us, bro, we're here to support you. We love what you're doing, man. Continue the great work and continue to teach our people, man. It's very important. You're doing important work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, y'all. I'm proud of y'all, brothers, man. What y'all do, what you've built, how you educate people, man, how you take care of the culture, man. I'm so proud of.
Thank you, man. We appreciate that. We appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, man. And listen, for me and my partner Corey, man, as we always say, listen, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much you keep. Game elevates. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Check out everything Henry's got going on. We'll put all of his links within the description and in the show notes. So please make sure you see, what he's got going on. Check him out. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.